I now have the privilege of introducing another RCA member, our keynote speaker, the President and CEO of U.S. Cellular, Mary Dillon. With more than 25 years of experience leading consumer-driven businesses and building brands, Mary is passionate about leveraging consumer insights and customer-focused strategies to inspire customer advocacy, advance the brand, and drive profitability and shareholder value. Mary applied that leadership philosophy to guide U.S. Cellular through the launch last September of the Belief Project, an array of industry-first initiatives that elevate the wireless customer experience and reward loyalty. Prior to joining U.S. Cellular last June, Mary served as Global Chief Marketing Officer and Executive Vice President of McDonald's Corporation. Before McDonald's, Mary was President of Quaker Foods Division of PepsiCo Corporation. It was at Quaker Oats in 1984 that this University of Illinois graduate began her career in marketing, and during her time there, she had several positions of increasing responsibility, including Vice President of Marketing for Gatorade. In addition to heading U.S. Cellular, Mary currently serves on the Board of Directors of Target Corporation, as well as the Executive Committee of CTIA, the Wireless Association. In addition, she's on the Board of Directors of the North Shore University Health System, Civic Committee of the Commercial Club of Chicago, and is a member of the Economic Club of Chicago and the Chicago Network. Last year, Mary was named one of Fierce Wireless's top 25 most powerful people in wireless. Ladies and gentlemen, join me by welcoming Mary Dillon.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the intro, Ron. And Steve, tell us what you really think. That's good. I've never heard him speak before. That's great. Anyways, well, thank you so much for inviting me here today. I can honestly tell you it's really nice to be in Las Vegas. Anybody who's lived through Chicago's winter this year might know what I'm talking about. But it's really an honor to be asked to do the keynote speech here at the 19th annual RCA Annual Convention Innovation Expo. And I know the next few days will be important. I think the work that's happening here will continue to happen, is all about helping our businesses get stronger, and that's very important to all of us. You know, as Ron mentioned, I'm relatively new to cellular and to this industry, but I've always had a passion about consumer insights and really how we can leverage those insights to grow businesses. So I'll talk a little bit about that today. I'll begin with some background on U.S. Cellular and how our intense focus on customers helps us to differentiate ourselves in this very competitive industry. I'll also draw some parallels to other consumer businesses and explain how insights can be applied. And then I'll leave you with some parting thoughts about why we can all be excited about the future of wireless and challenges that we have ahead of us to really reach our fullest potential. You know, few industries are more consumer-driven than wireless. So a lot of times people ask me about this transition into this business, and I often say, you know, wireless devices are by far the most important consumer product on the planet right now. And, you know, we ask yourself, what else would you turn around and go home and get that you forgot, except for maybe one of your kids? But what else would you turn around and go home, even if it meant you were going to be late, if it wasn't for your cell phone? Certainly you would do that. And I'm not saying cell phones are more important than our families, although I know a couple teenagers who might actually think that. But there's no question, it is really the most important thing that people have with them today. And that's a great thing, because it means that we're in a business that really matters, and it really matters in terms of driving growth and improving the economy. So before I get started in some of that, what I'd like to do is just kind of share a couple observations about this industry. I bet most people in the room have been in the industry for most of their careers. So through my lens, I see things a little bit differently sometimes. So let's give you a few examples. So let's put up the first slide. Okay, now I'm sure you guys know this, but there's a heck of a lot of acronyms in this business. And I'm sure you know that, right? So, you know, you kind of look there. Can you imagine being new to this industry and start with a list like that? But you know, in addition, what I love is that we use words that really, you could say them differently if you're explaining like to your 3-year-old or to your mother-in-law what you mean. So for example, handset, well, that's a phone, right? Well, OEM, well, that's a phone maker. So I know when I start using words like handset, device, and OEM all the time, that means I will be in this industry long enough to not remember that actually those are the words they mean. Okay, so the other thing I love about this industry is acronyms that mean two different things. Okay, so just when I thought I had it all figured out, then I start to realize certain things can mean different things depending on the context. M10's a good example, right? So it's sort of a little bit like we're using Chinese characters, you know, where it conveniently, a character can mean two totally different things based on the context. I also love the fact that this is a really interesting industry as it relates to our interrelatedness. So the notion of competing and cooperating, I don't think that exists so much in other industries. And I know Ralph de la Vega stole this phrase at the CTIA meeting, frenemies, but you could say that we are right across this industry, and some days we're friends and sometimes not so much. So it's quite interesting and unique. And lastly, you know, I really realized I was getting into the thick of things when I was, you know, going down. I had a day, an afternoon with some time in my hands. I was trying to go back and research all the words and concepts I still wanted to learn. And at one point, I look at my computer screen, and let's see if this comes up. I was having a flashback to high school physics as I was studying the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, and I thought, this is pretty cool. All right, this is something we all take for granted here, but I'll tell you, new to the industry, there's so many cool things to learn. It's a lot of fun. All right, so let's go back. I want to talk a little bit about our company and how it all started. So look at this picture. This is like circa 1920, so it's not exactly the right image, but I'll tell you, I think everybody here knows TDS was founded in 1969 by Roy Carlson as a provider of local wireline telephone services that consisted of 10 small rural Wisconsin telephone companies. And then U.S. Cellular was founded in 1983 as a subsidiary of TDS to fulfill the emerging role of wireless in the industry. So from the beginning, our company was always more about connecting people than about just connecting calls. An important part of our company's vision was the notion of enabling America to be more competitive in the world economy by giving people easy access to communications and information. So today, our mission is really about being a company that understands and anticipates consumers' wireless needs and delivering the best total experience. We have stayed true to our roots by maintaining a significant rural presence and holding on to the values and the lessons that we've learned from serving this important market. Our knowledge about these markets really help us, and I'm sure this speaks to many of you as well, to compete against the bigger carriers by offering a customer experience that really can't be matched. And we're more than holding our own in this really fast-paced, dynamic industry by focusing on delighting customers. In fact, I like to say that the way we treat our customers and the way we treat our fellow associates at U.S. Cellular is absolutely a huge part of our DNA. In fact, when I started with U.S. Cellular a little over 10 months ago, I spent a lot of time out in our stores and in our call centers, and there's an experience that really brought this home for me in terms of our relentless focus on customers. So I was visiting a store, and I was talking to one of our associates, and right in mid-sentence, the associate just walked away, right? I was like, okay, was this something I said? But what I realized is that a new customer had just walked in the door, and that associate was very clear about his job was to make sure to serve that customer. And I've seen that dynamic play out a number of times, really, over and over again across many different points of interaction in our stores. And I think, you know, if our associates are prioritizing customer service over spending time with a CEO, I know we're doing something really right. And I've seen it modeled in our care centers. I think our customers, our associates there, not only really focus on treating our customers well, but also each other with deep respect, because of course we all have to work together to get things done. So once I was listening in on a customer call, and the associate switched the line, started another conversation, and the tone of that conversation made me think she was speaking with yet another customer. And in fact, I realized she was speaking to another associate at another location, getting some information to complete the call. So I thought to myself, you know, if we have a company where people treat customers and each other with that same level of respect, then we really are doing something right. One of the major differentiators for U.S. Cellular is our culture, and it's frankly one of the primary reasons why I joined the company. We call it the dynamic organization. And there's 4 pillars to the model: leadership excellence, associate passion, customer advocacy, and superior results. Our 9,000 associates truly embrace these values every day to deliver what U.S. Cellular is best known for, which is a relentless focus on customer service. This model has really been a driver behind our results to date, and I'm really proud of the awards and recognition that we've achieved, because we wouldn't be able to if it weren't for the associates that we have, their hard work and their commitment to customers. The dynamic organization model has been in place for more than a decade. We're evolving it to meet today's intense competitive environment, but we're able to leverage our culture, I believe, really to stay competitive. Now, as always, and as all of you are too, we're always looking for new opportunities to expand our business through relationships that advance common interests and business objectives. And that's why we saw real value in joining the RCA back in 2009. Obviously, the RCA is a premier organization for rural and regional carriers and has been very effective, as Steve said today, at driving federal policy change to help us all compete. It's something that we really agree because we need a level playing field. So I'd like to personally thank Steve Berry and Ron Smith for their public advocacy on behalf of all of us. So you recognize how important it is for the members' customers to be able to use their handsets without any limitations in their home market and across the country. And now, as Steve mentioned, and thanks in part to the RCA, the FCC has created this roaming obligation for data so that all of our customers will have that same seamless experience. And again, being new to the industry, even 10 months ago, I had a lot to learn about these dynamics, and I saw this as one of the key either enablers or disenabler to our business, and understood that quickly, and I think this is a great development. The RCA's commitment to advocating for policies that are fair to rural Americans, especially in the areas of USF, spectrum policy, and 700 megahertz interoperability, are very, very closely aligned with our desires as well. U.S. Cellular depends on meeting the needs of our customers and removing barriers, for products and services, which is why being a member really makes sense for us. For all of us, and I say this to my associates, and sometimes they're not sure what it means when I say we are a national carrier. Now, we don't operate in every state in terms of having retail presence, but our customers have to view us as being just as good as the next guy and the next guy down the street in terms of meeting their needs. They have to view us as being on that competitive playing field, and these are important topics to get us there. Now, one of the other things that I do is sometimes think about what I can learn from other experiences and other industries. I'd like to spend a couple minutes on how consumer insights are used, I think, very effectively in the consumer packaged goods industry to really help lead great brands. And through my experience, I've learned that there's a lot of things that we can leverage from those great companies as well. So as I mentioned earlier, there are few businesses that are more consumer-driven today than wireless, and that's certainly one of the things that really appealed to me with this great opportunity, was to be able to leverage my insights from consumer-oriented businesses to this industry. So at first glance, you might not think that there's a lot in common between the industries, but let me just give you one example. So consumer packaged goods are all about creating growth in really very mature categories, and that's through precision targeting and innovation. So an example from the cereals business, at your house, in millions of homes like yours, I'm sure you have not one, but multiple brands of cereal in your pantry. We call that 100% household penetration, so very mature category, right? Sound familiar? You got your kid's favorite cereal, your favorite cereal, maybe a box of Captain Crunch for some fun. With 4 to 6 boxes in every house, the cereal industry represents a $13 billion business in North America. It's clearly very mature and it's very competitive. Yet in an industry that's it's also been a declining industry, because as lifestyles get busier, somehow we're sometimes too busy to even sit down and pour milk in a bowl and eat it, if you know what I mean. So, but even in this environment, packaged goods companies, Quaker Oats, Kellogg's, General Mills, they successfully manage their brands and they grow those brands and they grow them profitably. And how do they do it? Well, they compete relentlessly against each other for market share by segmenting the market, identifying the needs and motivations of those segments, offering relevant and differentiated benefits, creating demand, and then continually refining their approach to both growing the top and the bottom line. And they also innovate or they lose share. So they understand their customers so well that they can anticipate what they might need in the future in ways to drive additional growth. And that might be more convenient forms, newer, better tastes, improved health benefits. You get the idea. So many of these characteristics, I think, can be applied to the wireless industry, very mature industry as it relates to owning the first phone/handset. That we're almost at 100% there. Just about everybody who wants a phone has a phone. With such a quickly maturing market, it's even more critical than ever to segment customers, deeply understand their current and future needs, put a stake in the ground in terms of focus, and identify future sources of revenue growth. Getting back to consumer packaged goods, whether it was using segmentation to understand pet food motivations. I've worked in that industry, and here's a hint, it's all about your relationship with your dog. That drives everything in terms of what food choices you make. Or understanding the competitive mindset of athletes. This type of framework was really important to me and others in their businesses, driving differentiation and a way to compete. So, I'm not going to go deeply into the segmentation scheme that we're using, but I can tell you that we're very focused on applying these principles in picking our spots. So another important aspect of creating growth in a mature industry means really understanding the category antes, which is kind of an appropriate metaphor for this meeting in this place, but really understanding the table stakes. And in wireless, it means having a great network, it means having great phones. End of story. Our research shows that we also have the happiest customers in wireless. And right now, we're developing a new advertising campaign that really leverages that insight around our customers' happiness and their advocacy and giving reasons for others to consider switching to US Cellular. Friend of me, okay? Back to that. But this Friday, we're going to be launching a new campaign, and I thought, for fun, I would show you these 3 new spots. This is the first anybody has seen them, except for my team back in Chicago. So let me just set them up for a second. One is a commercial. Let's not show them yet. The first one is a new spot that really gets into the benefits of the Belief Project, which I'll talk a little bit more, but does it in a way really focused on the core benefits. The second one is about value and making sure that it's very clear the great values, the value that we offer. And the third is about our quality network. So take a look.
My old wireless company was all talk. They never gave me what US Cellular does, like faster upgrades to new phones. I used to wait 2 years, plus sign a new contract. Now I get upgrades in as little as 10 months, no new contract. I'm rewarded just for being a customer. I love that.
New phones without new contracts. Switch to US Cellular and be with the happiest customers in wireless.
Because these don't go as smoothly together as I thought. Is the next one coming? Okay.
I'm a heavy phone user, and my last wireless company was really sticking it to me. So we switched to a US Cellular National Family Plan. We get unlimited calling, texting, tons of data, and we're saving over $1,000 a year. No kidding, that much. That tickles.
Now get this Android-powered Samsung Gem free. Just switch to US Cellular and be with the happiest customers in wireless.
My last wireless company, they were call droppers. So I switched to US Cellular. What a difference. Now I've got the highest call quality on a great national network. So when Carlos calls to tell me when we're meeting for dinner, I never worry about our call dropping. Pretty sweet, right? Gotta go.
Get the highest call quality and network satisfaction of any national carrier. Switch to US Cellular and be with the happiest customers in wireless.
Okay, thank you. So, and I just want to talk about this network quality topic for a second. It's kind of interesting. You know, everybody at US Cellular, at our company, we take great pride in our exceptional engineering and the great quality of our network. However, in doing some consumer work, we realized that consumers didn't know or really give us credit for that. If you were a current customer of US Cellular, you got it, but if you weren't, it was something that people weren't really aware of. And especially at a time that this industry is all about everybody talking about all sorts of network claims on the airwaves. And just as an aside, you know, it's interesting, again, as I think about new things that I've learned about this industry, there's so much in a regulatory framework in so many aspects of this business, but one area where it doesn't really apply is in advertising, which is like, I call it the Wild West of advertising claims. In the food industry, if you're making an advertising claim, you know, like a health claim or something, it's amazing how regulated those are. So there's consumer confusion out there, right, about network quality and whatnot. And so, you know, what we said is we really need to make sure that when we talk to consumers and prospective new customers that we make sure that our great network quality is one of the key messages. Because if I've learned anything in my career, I've learned that perception equals reality in the mind of consumers, and a vacuum is quickly filled by others who can shape perceptions around you. So sometimes just by not saying anything, a perception is formed. At McDonald's, one of the key learnings there is that everybody at the McDonald's Corporation around the world has a lot of pride in the great quality of the supply chain and the ingredients that go into the food. But unless it's communicated, that is not the perception. And competition can create a superior image, and was, in fact, in terms of quality or freshness. So at McDonald's, by putting more focus on educating consumers about the quality of the food, as well as more innovation on food and beverage items, positive perceptions absolutely followed for that brand. Because if you're not taking control of the conversation, somebody else absolutely will. So on the Belief Project, just spending a minute on that, we launched it last fall, and it's really the culmination of our deep focus of having our customers' backs. We rolled out a new way of doing business by recognizing consumer loyalty and providing incentives for our customers to stay. So some of the benefits, and you saw that in the first execution, include things like faster upgrades for great phones at great prices without requiring consumers to constantly sign contracts. Customers automatically get the rewards, which can also be used in other things like additional lines and phones and whatnot. And this was a big, some might say kind of risky approach to the business, and it was in process certainly before I got to the company, but I fully endorsed it, and we're very happy with how it's going so far. It reflects the way that we think about our customers, but we always know that consumer attitudes and perceptions continually change. So for us, it's really about continuing to focus on how we evolve and continue to innovate around this idea. Another concept that I wanted to share, again, thinking about other business experiences that I've had, is that I think companies from a wide range of industries can really attribute their success to visionary leaders, and I'm sure this would be true for many of your companies as well. And I believe you can really learn from them. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to spend time with two iconic leaders in their industries. Fred Turner, one of the founding fathers along with Ray Kroc of McDonald's, as well as Roy Carlson, the founder of TDS and US Cellular. They operate in very different industries, but they have a lot in common. They both have a very strong entrepreneurial spirit. We're able to identify a business opportunity and pursue it with passion, building successful businesses, understanding what consumers want, and never compromising the consumer trust in their companies. And I believe both are really proud of having been able to establish companies that are successful and employing thousands, and in the case of McDonald's, millions of people around the world. When I was at McDonald's, one of my areas of focus was to gain alignment on our global brand equities, so how we think about the positioning and communication around the brand equities. So think about things like the Big Mac, the Egg McMuffin, the world-famous McDonald's fries. It was interesting. We had very, very tight specifications on how to make those products, but as it relates to how to market them, it was up to every country manager's judgment as to how to position and market those brands. And it wasn't optimizing. So as we developed some frameworks around this, and it was a new concept for some folks at McDonald's, so new concepts sometimes don't always go over so big. But one of the things that I decided to do is to ask Fred Turner's counsel on this. And I thought, he was there when these brands were formed. He's not a marketer, and some people thought that might have been a crazy idea. It actually turned out to be the smartest thing I could have done, because not only did Fred have really brilliant insights about these brand equities, but you can imagine his endorsement of the process and the need for them went a long, long way in the organization to making that happen. Roy had the vision to understand that wireless would be of great importance to our future, and the driving ideas behind our company were a desire to help people stay connected to their families and their friends and communities. He also knew telecommunications would be a great gateway for future competitiveness of us as a nation. And again, as Steve said, clearly that is a priority for the current administration. It's now part of the agenda to bolster America's infrastructure so we can maintain our competitive edge. So staying true to roots and vision have certainly helped provide a compass that continues to guide us through this constantly changing world of wireless. And it certainly needs to be adjusted all the time, but it's sort of our founding touchstones. So where do we go from here? Now that I'm a part of this industry, I often get asked, so where's wireless going? I think we've got a lot of experts in this room who probably have points of view about that. But I think it's safe to say that while we might have different ideas about the future of wireless, we do certainly agree on some of the common challenges that have to be addressed for us, for this industry to reach its full potential, and they're of great importance to jobs and to the economy. So first, for just a second, I'll touch on the AT&T T-Mobile potential merger. Obviously, everybody's talking about it. While it was a bit of a surprise, I don't think any of us are surprised about the potential for more consolidation in this industry. And nobody has a crystal ball in terms of what to expect that's going to happen. But more concentration of market power in the wireless industry does present some legitimate concerns. And we're looking as well, of course, at ways how this affects mandatory data roaming agreements, customer choice, the availability of handsets and spectrum, all of which impact the way that we and all of you certainly serve your customers. I will say this about the deal, the potential deal, and you may think of this as well. I think it really does provide an opportunity for a company like ours to increase awareness about our focus on really having customers' backs. The big getting bigger is not necessarily something that appeals to all consumers. Whether or not this happens, I'll tell you, we're not going to change our focus in the way that we really think about serving our customers and differentiating our business. So spectrum. So beyond this deal, one of the hottest topics right now, of course, is spectrum. I loved your chart up there. The pie chart was great. I don't need to tell anybody here that consumers have an insatiable demand, and it's not going to stop growing in terms of what they want to be able to do with their wireless devices. So we're pushing for Congress and the FCC to act quickly to make more spectrum available to the industry. In fact, last Tuesday, I testified at the hearing of the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Communications and Technology. So you could imagine, being 10 months in the industry, that was kind of a new experience. I like to call that taking one for the team. Okay, but it was great, and what I talked to them about were things that you already know. Certainly, spectrum in critically short supply. Without additional spectrum, the ability for this industry to continue to grow and for consumers to continue to get what they want in their professional and their personal lives is in jeopardy. And if it's not urgently addressed, innovation and job creation will be hurt. So we're encouraging Congress to adopt incentive-based legislation that would allow broadcasters to turn over unused spectrum and be part of this auction and the proceeds. And we're also suggesting, and I had several opportunities to say this, that the FCC adopt rules that provide a fair opportunity for small and medium-sized carriers to participate and to be successful. So that can be accomplished by prohibiting package bidding, making sure that we're auctioning off smaller geographic market areas that will draw more bidders. Another issue that I know we're all actively addressing is the interoperability across the 700 megahertz band. And if it's not resolved, it really does run the risk of undoing all the good work that's happening now with the momentum on data roaming. So the increased purchasing power of, and I think everybody here knows this, but the bigger carriers have more purchasing power, and many of the handset makers are tending to favor those carriers' brands at the detriment of others. So if that's allowed to continue, we won't be able to get at the category antes of great phones and great handsets and tablets. That's what people expect and want. So, limiting consumer choice is just not really an option. The last thing I would say in terms of challenges in this industry is what I call kind of the costs to compete. I don't think there's any other industry where somebody can walk in the door and get something that costs us about, I don't know, $400, and just for walking in the door. And that's the way this business works, right? The subsidization of the handsets, and that's what consumers expect. Got that. But we certainly have to figure out how to further monetize the innovation and the skyrocketing consumer demand that's happening from all the great applications and devices that are being developed across the market. I remember kind of fondly how in the food industry, when we wanted to go after a new opportunity, it felt like we had, well, it wasn't easy, a little bit more control of our destiny, right? So we identified a consumer opportunity. We would work with our R&D facility, our manufacturing plant, our packaging suppliers, and figure out the right costs and price, and then basically, bring that to market. And in wireless, as carriers, obviously, we're often kind of playing catch up to support the products and the great services that consumers are having access to today. So it's kind of interesting. It's an exciting dynamic, but it's a little bit different. So in total, I know that RCA has been very active in all of the topics that I talked about. And while these challenges are significant, they're certainly not insurmountable. I know there's been probably many times that this industry has been challenging for all of us. And I think if we meet the challenges successfully, the future of wireless really holds great promise for all of our companies. You know, I mentioned earlier that I often get asked about the future of wireless, and I do believe, and it sounds kind of corny, but I do believe wireless will change, has changed, and will continue to change the world. In many ways, it already has, and that's what I think makes this such a great industry to be in. You know, a truly mobile world is emerging, and it's driving profound changes in our lives. You know, as we increase network capacity and speed in this 4G and beyond world, people will have more devices and they will be absolutely connected all the time. The importance of physical location disappears, as does even the importance of time. So when we're unbound by location and unbound by time, but we have unlimited access to all the world's knowledge and information, we can really experience transformational political, social, cultural, and economic benefits. And all one has to do is just look at the role that social media enabled by mobile technology is playing on current events all over the world today. So we're talking about really empowering millions of people by opening up access to information that can, is, and will continue to change their lives for the better. So in closing, I just have to say, I think there's a really bright future for RCA members, for all of us. We have a unique ability to really focus on customers in a way that differentiates us from larger carriers. Collectively, we have a strong voice that needs to be heard, especially as we count our customers among those who really stand to gain from the benefits of wireless products and services. We have a great story to tell. And for U.S. Cellular, what we're going to do is just really stay true to who we are. And I'm confident that we can do this by innovating in this consumer-driven and very focused way. We have deep insights into our target audience and segments. We're going to be applying strategies to effectively serve these customers and intersect that with a clear understanding of where technology is heading, so we can create new products and new services that are unique to our business that continue to delight customers and attract new ones as well. So I know you all have a great story to tell too, and you'll aggressively compete in today's wireless industry. I look forward to continue to see your results and to continue to be part of RCA, and I thank you so much for all your time today. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the conference.